The name's Bond. James Bond.
You're a wizard, Harry.
I drink your milkshake.
You can't handle the truth.
You're tearing me apart, Lisa!
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Movie and Mafia podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Trout. I'm joined by my other two co-hosts. We're ready to get this going. We're missing our fourth member, Gabrielle. You know, she's out for some personal issues, unfortunately, but she's not going to be here today. Maybe next week, we'll see. But in the meantime, the show must go on. So, you know, we got Lauren, Max, and me to fill the gap here. All right, guys, how's it been going for you guys so far? How's the week been going?
The last week before school starts.
I know.
Yeah, just try to enjoy every little bit of it at this point.
Max, you're in California, right?
Yes.
Are you staying down there? Are you staying down there for? You're not going to come back for anything?
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it's for COVID, as a lot of you guys know, it's kind of the worst out here. You know, 1 every 8, I think is what it is. Angelino has COVID, so it's we're on complete lockdown. So it's just totally tough. And staying here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about you, Lauren? Are you in Philly? You coming down to Philly? What's your plan?
Why leave Philly? I don't know. I guess I have Charlie Kelly's mentality from Always Sunny, which is just never leave.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm a little bit outside Philly right now. I'm probably about 2 hours outside Philly, but I have an apartment that I can't get out of my lease, so coming back reluctantly a little bit,
Clone
but
yourself.
coming
if
back.
you look at a clone, then you could occupy both spaces.
Yeah, I mean, I do like living on my own. You know, it's nice to get out of the house, but at least out of my parents' house. But you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. I have all this money tied up in an apartment, so gonna be down there. But all right, enough about my apartment situation. Let's talk about some
Go back to
movies.
the clones, though.
The clones. Yes.
In the
Go
new
ahead.
season of Sabrina, she has a clone, and like one of the clone, like she
Yes.
duplicates herself, and
Yes.
then one of them they live 2 different lives, which is what you could do.
Yes. For our audience, she's talking about the chilling adventures of Sabrina Spellman. I watched it, season 4, the finale season. I'll talk more about my review and stuff about it later, but it came out recently. I forget the exact date it came out. I'm gonna find that real quick. But
New Year. Isn't that like a big New Year's release, like on New Year's Day or something?
you're probably right.
I heard something like it was either New Year's Eve or New Year's.
Yes, December 31st. So
Yes,
the day before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's the finale season. I'll give my whole review about it towards the end, but you know, it was a great show, and a great season for sure.
Yeah.
But yes, I do wish I could clone myself like her. That would be nice. All right. Well, with that being said, we do got to talk about some superhero news. It feels like we're the superhero podcast now, but it's just so prevalent in movies.
Yeah.
And so we got to talk about it. So first, I just want to briefly touch over the Snyder Cut. We mentioned it before on the show. Zack Snyder, he directed Batman vs. Superman, Man of Steel, and Justice League. Half of Justice League, I guess, because he went out about towards the end of filming, and they for personal reasons, and Joss Whedon replaced him and then changed up a bunch of stuff. And of course, we know that Justice League was a very poor release, widely criticized. So people wondered, hey, what was Zack Snyder's original vision? What did Joss Whedon take out that Zack Snyder wanted in? So that birthed the Snyder Cut, and about over 2 years later, looks like the Snyder Cut is happening, and it's planned for a release sometime in March this year. The Snyder Cut of the Justice League. So now I'm hopeful for it. You know, as you know, Max, I'm not the biggest fan of Justice League, and I'm sure you're not either.
Yeah.
But I am hopeful for this cut, and I really do think it could be a massive improvement.
Yeah, I'm hopeful too, and it's weird because this is kind of the weirdest place that the DC fandom has been at in a long time. The fact that everyone felt like DC was kind of uniting, and then Wonder Woman has really split the fandom, in my opinion. And it feels like fans who wanted Patty Jenkins to be to run the whole franchise, is now people are telling her to not direct the third one. So this has pretty big expectations because all the fans want to see this 4-hour cut of the movie. So it's just weird because it's now this Wonder Woman film felt like a Star Wars film where half the people loved it and the other half hated it. So it was just weird coming out of 84 like that. And that's a lot of divisive fandom heading into such a divisive film that we just had a couple years ago. So very, very interesting place, in my opinion, for the DC fandom.
No doubt, absolutely, yeah, no doubt. And Lauren, I know you're not. I know you're not potentially the biggest superhero fan as me and Max are. I mean, no one else is a bigger superhero fan than me, at least. But um, but with all this superhero news, and it feels like it's everywhere. I mean, what are your thoughts about it? Like from someone that just sees this flood of, it seems like, never-ending superhero movies, TV shows, etc., etc.
Like with the superhero movies, it's like they go in one ear and out the other. Like if someone makes me watch them, I'll watch them. But Deadpool, I can get behind Deadpool. Like that, I would prefer Deadpool over regular superheroes any day of the week.
I totally agree. Deadpool's absolutely a great film. And speaking of that, we'll jump right into we have confirmed news. Deadpool 3 not only is coming, it's going to be in the MCU. So for people, if you don't know what that means, the MCU is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That is the kind of world where, Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man, all those guys operate in. So the MCU is meant to be a collection of all the superheroes, and every superhero film in the MCU is connected with each other. So an example of the opposite of that would kind of just be like if you go to DC and you look at a movie like The Joker that released not too long, what is it, a year or two ago now. The Joker is a movie that is on its own and a standalone film. I mean, it's a DC film, but it's standalone and it's not connected to any other DC movies or any other superhero movies. It's isolated and completely in itself. So that's kind of the opposite of what the MCU stands for, if that makes sense for people. So, but anyway, yeah. So Deadpool 3 is coming, and it's going to be in the MCU. We knew this was heavily speculated ever since Disney bought Fox, and they have the rights to all the X-Men characters, and Deadpool falls under that wing. And perhaps the biggest news, Max, Deadpool 3 will stay rated R.
Yes.
We don't know that for sure, but Kevin Feige, one of the head guys at Marvel, said it will stay rated R. Nothing's been set in stone yet, but that's what a lot of people were worried about.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a conversation for superhero films for a long time now, and Deadpool, Logan broke those, and Joker as well, broke that rated R films are fine for superhero films. You're not losing your audience. They're still billion-dollar films, even though they're rated R. I'm excited to see Deadpool 3 in the MCU too. What's fascinating is too for me is that obviously this will obviously mean X-Men officially will definitely be in the MCU, with Deadpool being the first mutant basically to be in the MCU at this point. But normally when I rank the X-Men films, I include Deadpool 1 and 2 in those rankings when I do X-Men First Class, stuff like that. So it's interesting now to do Deadpool 3 where it can't fit in will it fit in with those first two films? Because those first two films do joke at the Fox films. Will it still do that with a Disney over its head? Like how much more crazy or how much more opportunity will they give Ryan Reynolds to do? Like how, he is pretty open. He's like head of the creative of the character, and it's a lot of stuff for Ryan Reynolds to do. So will they give him that much leeway in the MCU? If Feige has his vision, does Ryan Reynolds, I guess, seems like he's gonna fit right into that vision that Feige has. For
sure. And one of the things I'm worried about, I'm a massive superhero fan, as I've said multiple times already this episode, but I love Deadpool, I love the MCU as well. So I was worried. I wanted to see them together, but I'm also worried about how it'll be executed. Deadpool is a very rated R movie, and if people haven't seen it before, It is incredibly crude, violent, gory, and a lot of strong language and suggestive scenes. It's absolutely nowhere near a family show. So bringing that into the MCU, which is very Disneyified, even the harshest movies like Infinity War or Endgame, which deal with a lot of death, deal with it in a very lessened version of it, and more so it can be kind of catered to a family-friendly style. And I really don't know how Deadpool's going to turn out of that. I'm I was hoping, I was expecting it really to stay rated R, but
Yeah.
is it going to be more like a Disney movie or more like a Deadpool movie? And either way, I don't know if it's going to work. Deadpool
Yeah.
side by side with Iron Man or Captain America. I mean, I guess Iron Man's gone now, but with Captain or whoever like Thor and all the other Spider-Man and all that. What's it gonna look like? Is he gonna make stupid jokes and puns that aren't what Deadpool is, or is he gonna just be super crude and harsh and ridiculous to the point where it's such a stark contrast where it just looks weird on screen?
That's
And
what I was,
I'm
that's what I
very
was
worried
gonna,
about that.
yeah, that's what I was gonna bring up because we obviously know Deadpool 3 can be rated R, but we can assume that this is not gonna be the only Deadpool appearance involved in the universe. You're probably gonna have to add him to a team up movie, which won't be rated R. And we already saw Deadpool in a non-rated R movie in X-Men Origins Wolverine, and we saw how badly they handled that character in a non-rated R movie. So that's a lot of pressure on MCU to, first of all, nail a third one because I don't really love the second one, definitely not as much as the first one. So I was really a little bit disappointed by the second one. And also, what's exciting is that you get to also get Domino back from the second one, Colossus, like all these other side characters too. So I think it's exciting for that part. But when you look at it, like Deadpool has to be in a team up movie where he can't curse probably, and he can't be as violent. How will the character come across? And that's a tough challenge for Marvel to tackle.
For sure. And Lauren, you said you're a fan of Deadpool, so how do you think that kind of translates? We're talking about our issues, worries, I should say, with the show, with the movie coming to the MCU. What do you think about Deadpool being under the Disney branch of movies?
I think they can definitely make it work. Like it's likely they'll make it weird or screw it up, but like if they just make it like a rebrand for Deadpool, like he's not changing, he's just adapting to the new world kind of. And like it's rated R, so it's 18 and up. Like there's no reason they can't be as, filthy and raunchy as they want. So,
That's the hope. I hope for that. And talking about Deadpool coming to that universe, another thing I've always speculated, kind of thought about the show is how is that going to work? It's obviously established in the Deadpool movies, the first one and two, that the X-Men are there, they're real, they exist. Colossus is obviously, part of the X-Men, but they show the X-Men house and you see the characters from all the, original X-Men movies. I forget what they're all called now, like X-Men First Class and all those. You see the characters through the doorway in one of the end credit scenes. So that's clearly telling you that this version of Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool, is in the X-Men universe with all these other characters and all these other movies that we've seen before. So if that is now all of a sudden in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, how does that happen? Where was Deadpool when Thanos was snapping everybody away? Where were the Avengers when the X-Men were all fighting all these, all the I forget what they're called now. You know what I'm talking about? All the dudes in oh my God, the X-Men movie where they go back in time because the robots are killing them all. Yeah, Days of Future Past. So where were the X-Men or where were the Avengers when those I forget what those specific android things were called, but when those the robots were coming and killing all the mutants. Where were they? And also the term mutant. Is Scarlet Witch a mutant? Is she? Where is that? Where does she stack up?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think the WandaVision show is gonna give us our first set of mutants because in the comics, Wanda and Vision have twins who are both mutants, Wicket and Speed, who have already been featured. We've seen Wanda pregnant and having kids.
Well, how does she have kids? Vision's an android.
That's the part that we're gonna learn in the show. That that Wiccan and Speed are mutants. So that seems like, and they're twins, and it's what the show is setting up. So that's why the show's gonna be great, because it's gonna introduce us to mutants for the first time in the MCU as well.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
I'm imagining they're gonna do something with like the worlds colliding or something where like a portal to a different dimension, and these are like, different worlds or different, whatever it might be. I'm not sure how that's gonna turn out, but hopefully it's not super cheesy and it makes somewhat of sense.
Would
That's
you be
so.
fine if when Deadpool he's like going from like one universe to the other, they just break the fourth wall and you just see him signing a contract
Oh
of
my
him like
God, that'd be amazing if he was
that's
like
what I would write if
going
I
through the
was writing.
portal and like the camera zooms out and he's really just like signing a contract to Disney and
He's
it's
like
like a Mickey
signing his
Mouse logo
soul.
on it or something. Yeah, it'd be great.
Or like he just like literally just switches dimensions and was like, okay, well, this is just forget everything you've known, but fine dining.
What if when he's trying to curse or do something crude, it like censors over him? Like he's in like the Disney universe now, so he can't
But
curse,
like
stuff like
he's
that.
conscious of it. Like it's like he can
Yeah,
interact with the sensor block and like try to pull it away.
yeah, exactly. And everyone else is just like, "What are you doing, you weirdo?" Oh, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
I feel like
Classic Deadpool.
it's probably gonna be kind of meta. That was my answer to your earlier question. How will they do it? Meta, break the fourth wall.
Well, that's the hope. That's exactly what I imagine Deadpool to be. I mean, he literally killed himself, and himself is Ryan Reynolds, not even Wade Wilson. Like he went back in time and killed Ryan Reynolds directing Green Lantern because the movie was bad. Like
Can't get better than that.
writing Green Lantern, like that is amazing. Like it literally cannot get better than that. But
You know what else did they kind of did that in Sabrina. They like left and then it was
oh, when
but
they
then
were
it was
doing their
like
whole
a
show,
show. But then it was you
yes.
like saw the behind the scenes of the like the sets. That was weird.
Yes. Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. Before we talk too much about our shows, I do just want to quickly wrap up the MCU and we can toss it in a
Yeah.
corner and never talk about it again.
So
So,
what's your thesis statement?
well, my thesis on the MCU and particularly Deadpool is, man, I hope that they don't butcher this character. He's a great character. They've done great things with him. We've seen him at his worst and we've seen him at his best, and we hope he stays at his best. The ball's in the court of Kevin Feige and the guys running Disney and Marvel here. They know what they have to do to make a good movie, and I hope they do it. And I hope Mickey Mouse doesn't scare them away.
I mean, we have to trust Feige at this point. They've made 23 films, and WandaVision is a big step for him as a producer and Marvel as a whole going into TV. Like, we're getting WandaVision Friday, Falcon and Winter Soldier in 2 months. So they're building a lot of stuff right now. Will people pay attention to everything like they do the movies? That's also a big question, because you're gonna have to pay attention to everything so you know what's going on in the films. So it's a very unique thing that we haven't seen any studio handle yet, and Marvel is taking big risks very early on in their process of doing it.
For sure. And you touched on WandaVision for a second there. Yeah, so it premieres in 3 days as of when we're recording this. It premieres on January 15th. So, yep, I can't wait for it. I assume you're going to be watching that as soon as it comes out.
Yeah, I heard that it's 30 minutes an episode each to start. So we're getting basically an hour off the bat, just like the Mandalorian season 1 did, where he gave you 2 episodes off the bat. They're giving us 2. I'm pumped for the show, because the main reason why the show is going to be, well, I'm not sure if it's going to be great or anything, but the reason why I'm pumped for it is that this is Marvel's biggest risk yet. The idea of this whole show being in Wanda's head and having all these different things going on, bringing in Monica Rambeau, an older version from Captain Marvel. There's a lot going on here, and it's Marvel saying we're taking risks by basically doing sitcom episodes every week now. That's what the show is kind of going to be based on, at least in the beginning of the series, is doing old, each episode's a different decade of a sitcom. I'm really pumped for WandaVision. I love Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen, who deserve to be leading actors in Hollywood, who finally get their chance. Because obviously in the MCU, they've been very supporting in the group, and it's nice to see them back on screen together since Infinity War. So it also sets up Doctor Strange 2 at the same time. and it introduces mutants. So this is gonna be a fun show to kick off we've had a year off of the MCU. This is
Yeah.
for the first time in like 12 years that we haven't had an MCU movie, or 13 years, whatever it is. So Friday can't come soon enough for me.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice break. I enjoy this little break because it makes me more interested in the MCU again. Whereas rapid fire films every year, maybe if WandaVision had came out a year ago, I really wouldn't be that interested in watching it. As compared to right now, where I can't wait to watch it. And I'll tell you, I just have so many questions about this show. I mean, you said it's all in her head. I mean, what does that mean? Does the Mind Stone have anything to do with this? Because the last time we really saw Vision was him getting the Mind Stone ripped out of his head by Thanos.
Yeah.
What happened to Vision? Where's Vision? Is he alive, or is he just a figment of Scarlet Witch's, a memory that she just can't get over that she lost him? Where does this take place? Does this all take place when she got snapped away, and this is the world she lived in when she was snapped away by Thanos in Infinity War, or is this after Endgame and something has happened and now she's in this state? I just have an infinite amount of questions, and I can't wait for the show to answer them all for me.
Yeah, and I assume we're gonna do some spoiler reviews of that show every week, but
Sure.
it's exciting because it feels the most fresh thing the MCU has done in a long time. It doesn't feel like another superhero thing. It feels so unique to these two characters that my interest is up there for sure. And then we get Falcon and Winter Soldier a week after we're done this show, so boom, 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 right into the next show. So I am pumped for this MCU year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will just remind everyone, WandaVision, since it's an MCU show, will be on Disney Plus January 15th. And we will be doing reviews on this show for it. Absolutely 100%.
Yes.
All right, well, there we go. That's the MCU. We'll toss it into this little ball here and get the hell out of here. All right, it's gone forever now. Okay, at least until the next episode. In the meantime, though, let's talk a little bit about something I was so excited. I could not wait to talk about on the show today. Ready Player 2. Ready Player 2. A little bit of news, small little bit of news. I recently rewatched Ready Player 1, and I loved the movie the first time I watched it. Rewatched it, loved it twice as much. I went to Googling, went to doing some researching, and I found some news for a sequel movie. So these are based off the books, if you guys don't know that. The original Ready Player One book was released by Ernest Cline in 2011, and it was adapted into the Ready Player One movie in was it 2018, I believe? 18. And while the movie was being adapted from book to film, Ernest Cline did have an influence on the movie in some capacity. He was credited. I'm not sure how much he did, but I know that he worked on the film and at least some portions of it. Since then, and I should also mention Steven Spielberg, obviously the famous director, was the original director for Ready Player One, and that movie was very successful. I loved it. It was a pretty good movie. Some people didn't like it. It wasn't perfect reviews, but I think they were pretty good for the most part. And since then, there's kind of been a dull period where we're waiting on the author Ernest Cline to release their second book, and then presumably the movie would then come after that. They're not a one-to-one remake, book to film. There's differences, but the general storyline seems to be relatively the same. So Ernest Cline's book did release in 2020. I believe it was November 24th, 2020, this past year. So not too long ago, a little over a month or two ago. And the book had mixed reviews. Some things good, some things not so great. But as we know, movies tend to be more popular than books, especially in this situation. So now that Ready Player 2's book is done, it looks like the movie is now in early stages of development. Very, very early. So much so that I really had to dig to find news about this. Not many people are reporting it. It doesn't seem like this movie is going to be made this year. Most likely a 2022 release. But what we do know about the film is that it's unlikely for Steven Spielberg to return. That really sucks for me. Spielberg's a great director. He's done so many absolutely fantastic films, and I really hope that his lack of presence, if that ends up being the case, isn't lost on this movie or doesn't take away from this movie. You know, I don't know who they're gonna get to replace someone like Steven Spielberg, but you know, we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. But I gotta say, as a huge fan of the film, I am just concerned that it will take a step off without him. But regardless, you know, Ready Player One and Ready Player Two, I assume, is a film that takes a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of stuff from other films. You know, we saw Parzival's character riding the DeLorean from Back to the Future. You know, all the different video game characters that were sprinkled in it, like the Master Chief from Halo, or when the Lancer from Gears of War, or stuff like that. All the different movie, video games. Tracer from Overwatch. The Shining was referenced. They went inside the movie The Shining during the film. Fighting King Kong, Godzilla references. All over the place. So the movie is really just a cluster of other, famous pop culture references. So I'm hoping to see that in Ready Player 2 as well as, as it was in the original.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll open up to you, Max. What do you think about this film, especially this film without Steven Spielberg potentially?
Yeah, I mean, and we can talk about the first film as well. I really thought the first film I loved it the first time I've watched it. The more I watch it, I see a lot more criticisms with the film, but I am excited for a sequel because there's a lot more to do in the world. And the main thing I want in the second film is just a better usage of the human, like Earth, like the human side of the virtual. I thought that was handled very poorly in the first one. The idea of him having a rough aunt and uncle relationship and them dying, and you kind of forget that they died in the film when you finish it. I would like to see, even though everyone wants to see the virtual reality, that type of stuff, which I absolutely loved. And in the movie, it's easily the best part of the film. It has to be an evened out film. If you want to give a lot of attention to these good people on Earth, you have to build up their characters a lot better. And that's my main issue with the first film. Spielberg not coming back isn't a shocker. It's kind of just like Jurassic Park. He directed the first two, and then he stepped aside, but still produced the films, which he'll probably still do for this one. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the film, Spielberg is so busy, but this is a franchise that he could really build upon. He also just left the Tintin franchise as a director as well, which I was also very disappointed in. I believe Tintin is one of his better works as well. So it's weird that Spielberg keeps stepping down from his original films in a franchise. Very interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely very interesting to me as well. And one of the things that you touched on, talking about, Ready Player One needs to expand more into its real, the real life version, real life side. I totally agree with that. When I look back at the movie, I really liked it, but it was 2.5 hours, and I really don't know what I'd cut out to add in more scenes, developing the ant. And I totally agree with you, though. If you want the virtual reality side of it to mean more, to be more impactful, and the characters to be more impactful, you have to develop the real versions of them. Because sometimes I felt like when we looked at the characters, like I can't. What was it? Wade Watts was his name, right?
You remember the first? You remember the main two characters? And I think they call themselves the Fab Five at the end.
The High Five.
Get whatever, the High Five. You get literally no background on a lot of those characters, and they're just named that. It just felt very forced in because it happened in the book. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I agree.
In both books, I've had a lot of criticism, really, with the writing itself, like not the story, but with the writing, like the dialogue. And I hope that. And Ernest Cline, I think Ernest Cline also wrote the screenplay for the movie, if I'm not mistaken. So I wonder if he also writes the screenplay for this one too, which I actually don't want, because I want to see someone adapt his work and do something different with it. That's my main issue also with, like, for example, the Fantastic Beasts movies, the fact that J.K. Rowling is actually the one writing the scripts for those movies, and those movies have some bad dialogue in it. So you do have to separate from a book author and a movie screenplay writer, in my opinion.
For sure. And I feel like when you have someone like Steven Spielberg around, who is just a massive, influence, that he can kind of dictate more. But I hope that we get either Spielberg to return or someone else of that stature or caliber to return. Otherwise, I am just like you, a little concerned that the original author might have more power to control the movie. If there isn't a director that is that's a really high quality director, or at least well known and influential, that kind of has that power. And one of the things I wanted to say is that to the point you've been making as well. When I think about the movie and I think about what's the name of the main character, Parzival comes to my head way quicker, or at least the image of his avatar comes to my head like that, as compared to Wade Watts, or what he looks like. Even though he has plenty of screen time, his name, like Wade Watts, just like kind of just, oh yeah, haha, Wade Wilson, like Deadpool, like
Yeah.
they kind of just glossed over that, and then it's just back to being in the game doing cool stuff. And also, they mentioned, in the beginning monologue, I guess, he mentions that his mom and dad died when he was young. I would have loved to see some backstory on that. I would have loved to see, like, he said he grew up in like a harsh area. His mom and dad died. Now he has to live with his aunt. And now all we see is his aunt, who's a pushover, dating some scumbag guy who just takes advantage of him. So, like, yes, that sucks. Yeah, and then they just die. And they blow up off camera. Well, you see the explosion, but you don't see anything else from them. They're in there, they blow up, and that's it. And all they're meant to do is to go, wow, Wade Watts has it rough. He understands what it's like to be unfortunate. And it's just like, so, and that is how his character connects more with Artemis, or I don't even remember what her name is.
I have no idea what her name is either.
Yeah, see, that's the point. Like, I literally remember her name's Artemis, but all I remember is her name's Artemis, and she has a birthmark on her face. But that's it. But yeah. So that all that's used for, all that his aunt's death is used for, is to connect him to Artemis, because Artemis is someone who was struggling, and he was someone who, now is on her level, I suppose. And that's what they were going for. And I think that's just a kind of a shitty way to connect those dots and to merge those characters together. I think there's better ways to get that done. And I would have loved to see the film explore more, even if we had to drastically change it and make it so, maybe he doesn't even finish the challenges, and he doesn't, solve the riddle and crack the code or whatever, and get all 3 keys to win the contest and inherit $500 billion. Even if he doesn't get to that stage, he doesn't beat it, that could be the second movie. And the first movie can just be backstory on him, what happened with his real parents, what's it like living with his aunt and his and this other guy, scumbag guy now, what's his life like on a day-to-day basis, what are his friendships like. We don't see a single friendship with him and anyone else besides him and his video game friends until they come on screen, and then he meets them in person. But before that, there's absolutely no human interaction with him and anyone else besides his aunt and his her scumbag boyfriend for 30 seconds. And that's it. And that's weak. That's very weak. And developing the world too. There's a couple shots of the trailers and kind of a crappy world, but they don't explain anything about it. They don't explain very much at all how the world got to this location. Just like very brief, like, oh, this happened, and the crash, the stock market crash of 2025 or whatever they said. That doesn't explain anything. That's just a little bit of a side thing. I want more information. But, we can at least hope, Ready Player 2 will be coming, and hopefully they really nail the world atmosphere in that, as opposed to the virtual element. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, and I agree. And I also loved Ben Mendelsohn as Nolan Sorrento as the villain.
He is so good as villains.
I wonder if he is back for the sequel as well. I mean, that would hook me a lot more because he's one of my favorite actors. But if he's not, I'm still going to watch it. But Sorrento was a very interesting villain that became generic towards the end of the movie, who they could turn into something really big in future films as well.
Yeah, and I just think I love him and I hate him, if that makes sense. He just plays the wormiest of villains. Like, if you remember, he's the guy who gave Bane all the money in The Dark Knight Rises, and then Bane kills him, and so he is just such a wormy villain, wormy guy in that movie. And then he's Rogue One. He's Director Krennic, right? Yeah, I think this is his name. He's Director Krennic in Rogue One, and he has that wormy scene with Darth Vader where he's like, "Does that mean I'm the Admiral now? Now that so and so is dead?" and then and while he's like trying to kiss Darth Vader's ass, it's just so wormy. And then now, of course, he's the wormy douchebag villain in this movie, where he's just obviously one step behind everybody else for like it seems like the whole movie. He has his password to his virtual reality headset written on a sticky note on the side of his desk. Like such a dad thing. And then that's how they hack his virtual reality. Like that's how they get a whole upper hand, and it really turns around for the heroes or the good guys in the story. It's because they see his password just written on the side of his desk. And they're like, oh. And his password is Bossman69. Like, come on. And the two S's in boss are dollar signs. Like it is the cringiest stereotypical wormy villain character ever. And I gotta say, I love him. But I hate him. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
To
but
physically come back as a worm.
yes, actually, I when he goes into the virtual reality world, he should just be a worm slithering on the ground.
Okay. We'll make sure they do that in the.
Have you seen Ready Player One, Lauren?
Yeah, no, it was good. My mom made me watch it. But I was just reading the plot for the second book. The book cover's great, really good typography. But it looks like in the plot they have this dilemma of like releasing more technology into the world, and like that will make people want to stay in the oasis longer, which is the same argument we actually have right now in real life with like Apple and Google, and how they're designing things to keep us there longer and how it's bad for our health. So both the book and real life and the movie hopefully will all talk about how um, humans like this moral dilemma with like technology and like releasing it to the public.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any other closing thoughts, Max? Before we wrap up, Ready Player Two. Nope. Alrighty. Well, all right. So our final segment are what we've watched. We have some stuff we've been watching recently. So, Max, take it away. What have you been watching?
So I got a couple of things all brand new this past week. I'll just do a TV show and then I'll do my full review of the movie. So the two shows I watched, Dickinson season 2 just came back on Apple TV Plus. That's with Haley Steinfeld, who's now becoming Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye series. She's becoming one of the biggest superstars, singing and movie actor at the moment. She's really fantastic in the show. They released 3 episodes off the bat, and then they're going weekly, once a week. Really loves Dickinson. If you have Apple TV Plus, definitely binge season 1. It's only 30 minutes a pop, so it's easy to watch. And then this past Sunday on HBO, they released a part 1 of a part 2 Tiger Woods documentary that Tiger hasn't even approved on. I think it's if you're a sports fan, golf fan, you understand how famous Tiger Woods is, the Michael Jordan of golf in per se. And you hear his backstory and all of the mistakes he makes, and it was a pretty amazing documentary. And then the movie that I want to talk to you guys about is called Pieces of a Woman, which just came out on Netflix this past Thursday. Will be a part of Oscar season for sure, especially Vanessa Kirby, who could be winning at least nominated for this performance. She's from The Crown, Mission Impossible Fallout, and she played Shaw's sister in Hobbs and Shaw. So she's becoming a very big deal now. She will be nominated for this performance. Shia LaBeouf is also in the movie. He has a lot of controversy going on after just being fired off a movie set, but he's also giving his best performance in the movie. Just about a failed pregnancy, a pregnancy gone wrong, and how you move on from a failed pregnancy is kind of the plot of the movie. I'm not going to spoil what happens that happens wrong, but the first 30 minutes is one take, and it's fantastic. And I gave the film an 84%, so I really, really liked it. So if you're an Oscar person or you like Vanessa Kirby and Shia LaBeouf, I would highly recommend checking out Pieces of a Woman on Netflix that just came out on this past Thursday.
For sure. And you said the first 30 minutes are all one take. That really gives me...
It's a one take. It's unbelievably great.
That gives me vibes from 1917, if you saw that.
Yes.
It came out a little while ago. Well, about a year or so ago at this point. That was the war movie taking place during World War I that also, I think, had like the first 30, 45 minutes, something like that, all one take. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, when you realize what's going on in the first 30 minutes, again, I don't want to spoil it because I didn't really know the plot heading in, so a lot of stuff was just heartbreaking of what was going on. But the first 30 minutes about this actual pregnancy going on is truly great filmmaking and great acting from Kirby and LaBouffe. So I really do recommend this movie. It is depressing, really hard to watch, especially during COVID because it's about a pregnancy going wrong in some way. So, but it's tough to watch. But if you're an Oscar person, I would highly recommend checking it out.
Awesome. And speaking of tough to watch shows, I finally got around to watching Soul, and oh my God, my heart is
did.
crushed into a million
That's cool.
pieces. It was
That's great.
amazing. I babysit for a little boy, so he wanted to watch Soul, so I happily obliged, and we decided to watch it, and oh my gosh, it was so much better than I thought it would be. I was blown away, and it as a Disney movie, the themes of death where he dies and like towards the beginning of the movie, and then how they show the afterlife and how they show going to heaven as this like all-consuming white energy like ball. It was almost scary. So
Yeah.
I'm just surprised they went with that. I'm impressed, honestly. It was scarier than I thought they would make for that movie like that. And then they showed I love the different stuff where it's crafting a person. How do people get made? And they're just like, they just take this person and they go, all right, you're a manipulative personality. All right, over here, okay, you're a hard worker. Okay, over here, like you're a diva. Okay, over here. I just love how they craft that. And, they kind of predetermine what you're like. And I thought that was a really interesting take on it, or just a new kind of style. And then also, we saw some of the funny little bits where, eventually our main character, I forget all their names now. It's been like a week since I watched it, but uh, where the main guy goes and meets, what is her number?
22.
22. Right. So he goes and meets 22, I guess the 22nd soul that hasn't, been able to pass on to Earth because she hasn't found her spark. So when he meets her and she's kind of taking him around, showing him around everywhere, and they go to that one area where it's all like the dark sand area, and you see all the people floating in the sky, and they're in their own bubbles, and that is supposed to be where you go, where your brain goes when you're in the zone. So when you're super focused, like a writer writing a book, or a sports player in the middle of a game, yeah, and it's just like that's where you're at. You're in the zone. So she goes and throws like a tennis ball at one of the people, like it's someone on their piano, and they get knocked out of the zone. And then in real life, the effect of that is whoever's playing their piano all of a sudden loses her train of thought. So there's plenty of times in my life where I've been doing something and I've been focused and I lose my train of thought. So I guess that's how they kind of poke fun and jab at that. And the funniest part of that was, as a huge sports fan, when she throws the tennis ball at the basketball player and he knocks him out of his focus and he misses the dunk. That's the Knicks player. And if you follow basketball or sports at all, the New York Knicks are one of the most plagued franchises in terms of, man, they just cannot win anything. They just can't even get close. And it has just been terrible for the New York Knicks for years, maybe 40, 50 years now. It has just been it's been terrible. And they've gotten close and then just haven't been able to get there in terms of winning a championship. But yeah, then of course 22 goes. Yeah, 22 goes, oh, look at this team. I've been messing with them for years, for decades. And that is just such a hilarious nod at the New York Knicks. I think that's perfect. I love that. And other than that, just everything I've said about it just being very kind of intense themes of death and sadness and like your life flashing before your eyes. And, the main character, I forget his name right now, but the main character lived his whole life where he wasn't content and he wasn't happy. And by the end of it, he was upset at first that he was going to lose his life. When he feels like he hasn't done anything with it. And then he just resided to the fact that, I lived my life, that's done with. I'm going to go do my own thing now. I'm going to go up to heaven. And, even though I didn't do exactly what I wanted to do, it's not really my life anymore. Because, his personality's kind of changed since 22 has inherited his body. So, and then him just kind of resigning himself to death was, really hard to see. And I thought it was incredibly powerful. And I just left this movie thinking, was that a Disney movie? I mean, whoa, my God. I mean, I thought Disney couldn't make better animated movies. I was wrong. And other than I don't know how anything can beat Soul. I probably should have finished my list with that, not started it, but we're already here. So I'll quickly touch on the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina Spellman. We mentioned it earlier in the show, but they released season 4 on December 31st earlier, so not too long ago, a couple weeks ago now. It's the finale season, so the show's done. It's gone. It's over. After only 4 seasons, I really liked it. I thought the earlier seasons were definitely better. In my opinion, if I ranked each season, it would start like this and then just quickly start, kind of shifting down. I did like the final season. It was good, but I missed the season 1 days of this show. It was much better in the beginning for me. I enjoyed it then. But, we're at the end now. I understand it. I don't know how much more they could have gone. They kind of went the opposite of storylines I was hoping they would go towards, but it is what it is. The show's done now, so I highly recommend if you're interested in a show that kind of sort of like a teen drama, but also all the elements of like a witch warlock type magic type show. Well done, very well done, good cast, enjoyed it. And then lastly, the outfits are spectacular. And and lastly, I did want to touch. We talked plenty about Ready Player One, but I recently rewatched it yesterday, in fact. And if anyone hasn't watched it, highly recommend it from me. Highly recommend it. It was 2.5 hours. The second time I watched it, and I could not put it down. Incredible movie. But all right, so Lauren, I guess you're last here on our what we've watched. Finish this out.
Time. I can put off Tenet until next week, and then if you guys want time to watch it, we can all talk about it.
Max, have you got around to watching Tenet?
I'm not sure I have the time. If you can do a non-spoiler, that would be great. Cause I don't know when I can watch it.
Yeah, no, I can wait until next week to do. We can just wrap up today if you don't want to go over.
Well, if you could do no, it's give us a little non-spoilery review of Tenet.
Yeah.
Give us footnotes.
So basically, like, if you like those weird time travel-y, Inception, Unstuck in Time, like sci-fi movie, like that's for you. And the whole point of it with time travel in this movie, what makes it different is when you do it and you're in the reverse, you're going through time backwards. So for you, everything is moving backwards. People are running backwards, cars are backwards, wind is backwards, and you can't breathe the air. You have to bring your own air. And that's kind of like how this movie takes a different approach at like time travel and like time loops. And then it's like, yeah, and it's kind of Inception-y. You guys cut out. Are you still there?
Yep, I see you. Keep going. Yeah, you haven't cut out for me, so.
You haven't cut out for me.
You both like freeze, but you're also both pretty still, so I can never tell.
That is true. Here, I'll make sure to keep moving around so you know.
But yeah, so Tenet basically, like, you're following this CIA agent guy. They fake his death. I don't know who's testing him. I was kind of confused, but someone was like testing him for allegiance to like the world, because like the world's totally ending because of this Russian guy. So like there's a level beyond the CIA of like people who are trying to train to end the end of the world, but like no one knows about it, and it's like, yeah, there you go.
Awesome.
Did you like it or no?
I liked it enough, but like I was like confused a lot. And like I can rewatch it. Maybe that'll help.
That's what I've been hearing too. I heard one that it's super loud, that sometimes you can't even hear the dialogue from the character. And then 2 is confusing. That's what I've been hearing.
Yeah, so it was very like I just kind of like, they would say something and be like, oh sure, what? Like now that's happening? Okay. So what was it? Who's the guy? Robert Pattinson guy?
Yeah, Pattinson, yeah.
Pattinson, yeah.
Yeah, so the vampire is in that, but he's not a vampire.
Edward.
And like but like the whole time you're looking at him, you're like, are you gonna eat somebody? Like
oh my gosh. Yeah, isn't that a who directed that? Is that a Christopher Nolan?
Christopher Nolan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, well, if you're interested in rewatching it, Lauren, I mean, I would be happy. I mean, we could even see if Gabrielle would be in on it. We could maybe find some time to virtually have a little watch party together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I rented it already on Amazon Prime. So if I was like to screen share it, like I still have it rented for like another 30 hours. I don't know how sick she is if Gab wants to watch it, but
Well, I can talk to her. We can figure that out. You know,
Alright,
I have my
I like
ways. You know, I can
how
find
do
us
I
something.
pirate movies?
Well, I think this is probably a conversation for off the air, but I
Yes.
will help you with.
He's gonna cut
I'll
all
help
that
you
out.
with,
He's gonna
you know,
put
getting
me
some movies.
like
Don't
a
worry about it.
conversation
I got you. Oh my gosh. All right. Well,
We just
is there anything
video
else you want to talk about, Lauren? Any other? Go ahead, Max. What's
Go.
up?
Yeah, so I'll say that this is a pretty big week for stuff coming out. We already talked about WandaVision's coming out this upcoming Friday. A new movie that's going to be in Oscar contention is called One Night in Miami. That's coming out this Friday on Amazon Prime, which should be very exciting. And then there's an sci-fi Netflix film with Anthony Mackie coming out on Friday as well. So there's a lot coming out. I'll be definitely watching all of them. So I'll be having those reviews for you guys next week here on the pod.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it. Looking
Yeah.
forward to it. All right, guys. Well, with that being said, I'll wrap it up here. We have been the Movie Mafia. Thank you all so much for watching, tuning in. We will see you in the next episode. Peace.